Millions of Americans from coast to coast are exercising their centuries-old right to vote, but that right that so many take for granted could be at risk from attacks, both domestic and international. CBS News election law contributor David Becker joins us now to update us on this question. David, we were having these conversations in 2020, so let's bring us up to date. How would you rate the health of the U.S. electoral system at this moment?
Well, in reality, the actual health of our system is very, very strong. We have more voters who have access to easier ways to vote than ever before. More voters have access to things like online voter registration and same-day registration, even automatic voter registration than ever before. More voters have access to no-excuse mail ballots or early voting than ever before. And our system is also more secure than it ever has been. We have more paper ballots, which can be reviewed and verified and audited and recounted than ever before in American history. 95% of all ballots cast in America are on paper, including all of the ballots cast in Battleground States. Those ballots are audited. We have systems in place to protect against fraud better than ever before. But of course, the irony is that losing candidates are still spreading lies about how secure our system is in an effort to undermine confidence in our election system, and that's causing us some distress.
And David, you listed in that list of how healthy the system was two things, which is one, it's easier to register to vote, and it's easier to vote. There are some politicians who make that seem like it's a bad thing, that too much access to the ballot is something to be suspicious about.
Yeah, it's really baffling to understand why that's the case. I mean, if you look back at leaders of this country, whether they be Democratic or Republican, people like Ronald Reagan, they really took the opportunity to persuade the American public and win large majorities as a challenge and something that they wanted to seek as a mandate. And now we look at some officials trying to undermine that to some degree. I think largely they're failing. I think the American voter is very resilient and is going to push back against some of these efforts. And I said, in most places, the reality is it's pretty darn easy to vote, easier than it's ever been, and it's more secure than ever.
And so if you were to think about places where the right to vote is threatened, what are some of the greatest challenges to American democracy right now?
Well, there are some who, under the auspices of the lies about the 2020 and to some degree the 2022 elections, are pushing policies that are really bad for election integrity, like hand counting ballots, which is less accurate and takes much, much longer. And you can imagine, as ballots are taking longer to count, how losing candidates might spread lies about that process in order to incite violence. It's important we try to count ballots as quickly as possible while understanding that our ballots are very complex. We're not going to know the results of very close races on election night. It might take days. So just being aware of the reality of running an election in the United States of America in 10,000 different jurisdictions with 100,000 election workers, with 1 million volunteers, with 160 million voters on multiple page ballots, and having some understanding and empathy for, in particular, the public servants who run those elections and have done a remarkable job, even under incredible stress.
The Republican Party recoiled after January 6th, which was a day of certifying the vote. But now a lot of those who did recoil have endorsed former President Trump, who they criticized shortly after the 6th. The party is behind him. How does the treatment of January 6th as a shock to the American system, that treatment, which has changed from 2021 to where we are today, how does that change affect, or does it not affect at all, the overall health of American democracy with respect to the vote?
Well, I don't think it changes the reality of the actual health of our election system, but certainly the false perception of that election system, the lies spread about elections, the attempts to undermine our confidence in our democracy, the attempts to bully and threaten public servants, election officials, and others all over the country, that does damage to our system overall. And we've seen so many people of principle, Republicans and Democrats. I think about people like Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger and Bill Gates, the Maricopa County Supervisor, who've stood for truth and principle. Even though they supported the former president at times, they have voted for the former president at times, and that's the best of the American spirit. I think we're going to see that shining through in 2024.
And finally, David, the battleground states, we're all going to be paying a great deal of attention to them. Is it, do you have an assessment about the health of those 7 or so states? Is there one we should be paying attention to, one where there might be a situation in a state of flux?
I think several of the states are in really good shape. I mentioned Georgia. I think Georgia's doing a remarkably strong job. I think Arizona and Nevada are doing pretty good jobs. I think states I'm really keeping an eye on, in particular, are North Carolina and Wisconsin. I think those are states where there has been some undermining of confidence, some by elected leaders. There are efforts to change laws for reasons that are not particularly strong, that might weaken the integrity of the system. There's a law that's currently under review by the North Carolina Supreme Court that would change the entire structure of election governance there. We need to watch those things very closely, because what all elected officials and all Americans should want is an election where we know the result, we accept the results, where the rules are set in advance and cannot be leveraged by the losing candidate to try to cast doubt.
David Becker, CBS News election analyst. Thank you so much, David.
Thank you, John.